Thank you everyone for joining. We have the committee in the room, myself, the chair of the committee, Manoj Sharma, Dr. Jennifer Farr, committee member and chair of the Department of Social and Behavioral Health, Dr. Christopher Johansson, who is an assistant professor in the Department of Social and Behavioral Health. We have the student, Sidath Kapukotuwa, and we have online graduate committee representative, Dr. Kavita Batra from the School of Medicine. We have gathered here for the final dissertation defense of Sidath. The title of his presentation is Testing the Efficacy of Responsible Play, MTM-based Intervention for Responsible Gambling for College Students, a randomized controlled trial. Since it is a very long dissertation, I'll give him up to an hour for presentation and then 15 minutes for the question and answers. And then we will have a closed committee session for about an hour or so. A few things. We have the sign-in sheet for the committee to sign in. So please go ahead and sign in the sheet. We are also taking an online picture of all the participants. Semi Glover is helping us with that. Thank you, Semi. And Sidath, you have to complete the graduate college culminating experience results form in the Grad Rebel gateway. And here is the exit survey. You have to complete it and give it to the administration after completion. And myself, Dr. Farr and Dr. Johansson will complete the faculty evaluation form. On October 21st, an email was sent, which has the Google link to it. If anybody needs a hard copy, I have a hard copy here. And Dr. Batra is excused from filling the faculty evaluation form. So thank you, everyone. And now I leave it to Sidath to take it from here.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Sharma, for the lovely introduction. And thank you, everyone, for joining online. And thank my committee for joining in person here. So let's begin the presentation. What happening? Okay. All right. So this presentation has several parts. I will begin with the introduction. And in the introduction, I will go over what is gambling and the form of gambling that is most prevalent among college students. Then I will introduce you to two types of gambling disorders. And then I will introduce you to what is responsible gambling. And then I will go over my problem statement, why I am interested in this study. And then the theoretical framework that was guided this study. And then the purpose of the study. Then I will go over the study design. And I will conclude the introduction with my primary goals, objectives. So, what is gambling? It depends on who you ask, actually. So, someone can say a traditional form of gambling, casino gambling, or other type of gambling. But the definition I'm going with is that gambling involves placing something of value at risk with the hope of gaining something greater value. So this involves a traditional form of gambling. It could be also involve the modernized form of stock market investment because we are taking a risk to get a greater value. Also, it could also involve starting a business and also gambling in video games. Nowadays, in online video games, there are something called microtransactions. You can purchase certain items to get their characters more powerful or something like that. That's a gamble in a way. So, type of gambling among college students. Lottery and scratches. This is the entry point for college students. They started with their parents using lottery and scratches as gift. And then the sport betting are more prevalent now with these certain kind of apps available online. And of course, casino games and online gaming. Social gambling has during parties, you can gamble on anything. And then the fantasy sport aspect of the gambling. So, what are the gambling disorders? The first one I'm going to introduce is problem gambling. So, problem gambling is a less severe form of gambling disorder. So, it is defined as any gambling behavior that endangers or disrupts one's life, personal, familial, or professional aspect. The more severe form is the gambling disorder itself. It is a condition where a person cannot control the urge to gamble. It is a compulsive and destructive behavior that causes negative consequences. So, moving on to responsible gambling. Currently, there is no definition for responsible gambling. It can be defined as how the researcher wants. For my study, I define it as taking regular breaks from gambling, not relying on gambling as a source of income, only gambling with money that you can afford to lose, and then the setting personal limits on both time and money spent on gambling. So, my problem statement. Why am I interested in this study? So, gambling is for the college students, gambling is college students are vulnerable population for problem gambling. If you see the prevalence data, problem gambling prevalence for college students is about 10%. For general population, it is about 3%. These prevalences are for global prevalences. And for the prevalence for the gambling disorder, for college student, it is about 6%, whereas for general population, it's about 2%. But also, these are the global prevalences. Let's look at some consequences related to problem gambling and gambling disorder. This is for general population. So it could be psychological, social, financial consequences to the gambler himself, and also it can be for their families. And also there are consequences for society as well. As for looking at the specific for college student, the consequences, it could be poor academic performance, debt, depression, relationship problems, and ultimately it could lead to suicide. So, what is my theoretical framework? My theoretical framework is multi-theory model of health behavior change, introduced to us by my advisor, Dr. Manoj Sharma, in 2015. MTM has two components: initiation part of a behavior change, and then the sustainable part of the behavior change. Now you are seeing the initiation part of the initiation has three constructs known as participatory dialogue, which is measured to perceive advantage and perceive disadvantage. The second construct is behavioral confidence, and then the changes in physical environment. For the sustainable part of the MTM, again, there are three constructs: emotional transformation, practice for change, and changes in social environment. So, what is the purpose of this study? It is to design and evaluate an intervention to help college and university students participate in responsible gambling based on multi-theory model of health behavior change. So, moving on to my study design, it is a randomized control trial. I had two arms. My experiment arm is the MTM-based intervention, and I compared it with the knowledge-based intervention. I had 3 sessions for both interventions, each session lasting about 1 hour. And then I had a follow-up at 8 weeks at the conclusion of the third session. So 8 weeks after the conclusion of the third session. The participants recruited at UNLV, and selection criteria I will go over in a later slide. So I have actually 9 primary objectives. They are similar, just only the part that different is the one in the red here. So I will read this one. So the primary objective 1 is to determine if there was a statistically and practically significant difference in the mean PGSI scores. So what is PGSI? It is the Problem Gambling Severity Index, which is a standard tool, validated tool used by researchers to identify if someone is at risk of gambling. So scores between the experimental group and the comparison group from before the intervention to immediately after the intervention and at 8-week follow-up. So pre, post, and follow-up. So this is PGSI. So rest of my 8 objectives are based on MTM. The first 6 are the 6 construct of MTM, and the last 2 is the intention to initiate behavior change, and then the 9th one is the intention to sustain behavior change. So this is the second one: passive dialogue, behavior confidence, changes in physical environment, emotional transformation, practice for change, and changes in social environment, intention to initiate, intention to sustain. So those are my 9 primary objectives. So moving on to the second part of this presentation, methodology. So I will introduce you to my target population, then how I calculate my sample size, then the instrumentation, that is the surveys I use for this study, and then the intervention itself, and finally the data analysis part. So my target population, who are my participants? They are college students who are aged 21 or older. Why did I choose age 21? Because it's the legal age of gambling. And they should be able to communicate in English, provide informed consent, and receive a score of 3 or higher in the PGSI. So I mentioned PGSI is the standard gambling, which is access to risk of gambling. So why I choose 3? It is if participants score a 3 or 7, that means they are at risk of problem gambling. If the participants scored 8 or higher, they are actually in the problem gambling state. So that's why I choose 3 or higher as the eligibility criteria for this study. For the recruitment, I use university newsletters, as well as I use direct email to students. So sample size calculation, I'm not going to go through all the statistics. So my main analysis is repeated measure ANOVA or mixed method ANOVA, 2-factor mixed method ANOVA. So based on this calculation, I got 40 participants in total, so 20 for each arm. How did I get the 60? I inflated it by 50% to count for attrition and missing values. So I need to recruit at least 60 participants for this study. So let's see how that went. So this is my console flow diagram for my randomized control trial. So based on my recruitment email, initial survey had 19 eligible participants. I invited them all to the study, but 34 didn't accept the invitation. 56 accept the invitation. So I divided them equally by 28 for each arm and enrolled them in the study. But during the first 2 sessions, 8 participants from each arm dropped out. So only 20 from each arm completed the study. And during the follow-up, again, 1 student dropped out. So I ended up with 19 in my knowledge-based intervention and 20 in my MTM intervention. So I only analyzed for the data analysis, I only use those who actually completed the whole series of the surveys. This is my per protocol analysis, not the intention to treat analysis. So this is the logic design for the responsible gambling intervention. As I mentioned, I had a pre-test, then the intervention, then the post-test, and then the follow-up. My instrumentation is based on, I had a question from PGSI. PGSI has 9 questions. then the MTM construct, six construct, and then the intention to initiate questions, and in the intention sustain items. So the pre-test and post-test and follow-up, all the same survey, just distributed before the intervention, right after the third conclusion of the third session, and then the 8-week follow-up. The recruitment survey also similar to the survey used in here. So instrument subscale, I had total of 55 questions. The question 1 is the screening question, question 2, and then the last 12 questions are demographic questions. The 9 question 3 to 11, the 9 items are PHSI. Then the construct of MTM. Here, so I ended up with 55 questions for myself. So the process evaluation. For the process evaluation, I use RQFSM model. Again, introduced to us by Dr. Sharma and Dr. Kapukotuwa. So for the R stands for reach, Q is for quality, F is for fidelity, S is for satisfaction, and M is for management. So for the reach item, I measured it through participant attendance, demographic data, then recruitment sources, and then the barrier to participate. I had some written questions for my participant asking suggestions for improvement for the further improve the intervention. For the quality, I measured it through participant rating for quality of the session, facilitator performance, and so on. Then the specific accept on information gain, relevant of content, engagement in activities, and so on. For the fidelity, I measured it through a checklist that each session had certain objectives to cover. So I made a checklist for each session. It was measured through things like the welcoming participants, defining responsible gambling, explaining benefit and risk, such as. So for the fidelity test, I had 2 observers, fellow students from Dr. Sharma's group. So they observed and marked the checklist for fidelity, whether I cover everything that is assigned for the session. And for the satisfaction, it was measured through rating for information gain, relevance, engagement, effectiveness, the phase method used, and time allocated. Then I asked for the strength of the program, and again I asked for participants to suggest some improvement for the intervention. Then the management is measured through rating for administrative support, communication, resource allocation, and so on. So moving on to the strategy procedure. The UNLE IRB approved my study, then the recruitment started. First, I posted announcement in the new UNLE newsletter, such as UNLE Today and RAIL newsletters. Then I obtained student directory from registrar office, and then I started email student individually through the UNLE email addresses. So that's how the recruitments happen. And I went through my intervention group, experimental and comparison groups in these slides. So moving on to the next part, participant engagement. Like I mentioned, I had help from Dr. Sharma's advisees, and so they are city trained, they manage logistics, educational material, and so on. So I send out emails to remind my participant to attend each session. I send one email the day before and like 3 days before, like for example, I had emails set up for send reminders for my participant. Same thing happened for my follow-up. So intervention. Let's go over it, my experimental arm, which is the NTM-based intervention. So the week one focused on the advantage and disadvantage of responsible gambling. Then we discuss how the advantage outweigh disadvantage. This is the first construct of initiation. So then we identify the behavioral confidence. That's the second construct of the initiation. And then develop plan to initiate responsible gambling. Then we identify changes in physical environment to help students participate in responsible gambling. With two activities included: evaluation of emotion, how to transfer negative emotions towards participating in responsible gambling, to positive emotion, demonstration of channeling and record keeping, and so on. And for the week two, I asked one of the employee from Nevada Council on Problem Gambling to send me a recorded video as a guest speaker because I had, I think, 6 sessions for MTM in the week, so I couldn't invite him in person. So I asked him to give me a recording of the video. So I played it to my participants. Then we go over identification of activities on how to initiate responsible gambling within the next 8 weeks, identification of activities on how to sustain responsible gambling the next 8 weeks, and then the demonstration of how to initiate and sustain responsible gambling. As for the comparison arm, again, I had 3 weeks of sessions, but they are different. They were regular boring lectures, giving information on gambling behavior, responsible gambling, theoretical model to participate in responsible gambling, and such as that. As for the evaluation, as I mentioned, I distributed the survey pre-intervention, post-intervention, and 8 weeks after the intervention. So this is the conceptual model. So in the intervention session, these activities are cover one or more of the MTM constructs, and then it leads to behavior objective, which is the intention to initiate or intention to sustain responsible gambling, and my behavior outcome is the participating in responsible gambling. So that's done. Then the most important part of the presentation, results. So I use my the recruitment survey as a cross-sectional study. So I had an instrument validation through my recruitment survey. Then the pre-test descriptive statistic, I will go over that because I did descriptive statistic and test whether there are differences between the two groups to identify the randomization worked. If not, I would have to do repeated measure and COVA to counter that. So then the process evaluation, results of the process evaluations, then the randomized control trial, the results of the randomized control trial. So let's look at the cross-sectional study. I had 209 participants taking this survey. This is some of the demographic information, the age, working hours, gambling days, past month, gender, then race and ethnicity. So I had a pretty diverse group in here for that, different races and almost equal female, male and female participants. Then there were other categories, but I'm only showing the important part for the study. So I asked what is their favorite type of gambling? Just one choice, not multiple choices. So single choice. So the majority of them participate in the electronic gaming machines or EGMs. Then some casino table gamblers and sport betting and poker. Those traditional type were more prevalent among UNLV students. Then I used PGSI category. As I mentioned, so the moderate risk is 3 to 7. So I had 64 students who are in that risk category and 24 in the problem gambling stage. So that's how I invited them to participate in my study. I had follow-up surveys taken, so that's how I ended up 19. This is not equal to 90, but 88. But I think 2 more students take survey, so that's how I ended up eligible 90 students. And so the cross-sectional study, as I mentioned, I use the cross-sectional study to validate my instrument. This is the internal consistency validation. So I use ConRAF alpha, use the standard 0.7 to 0.9 is acceptable. As you can see, every scale is above 0.7, but if you look at the behavioral confidence, it's little over 0.9, which shows some of the items in the behavioral confidence could be asking the same question. But since it's closer to 0.9, we didn't change the instrument for that. And the cross-sectional study, also from the data, I conduct structural equation modeling. I had initiation model tested for SEM and sustainable model tested SEM. All the variables I tested are acceptable and actually almost perfect scores for initiation model and sustainable model. Then moving on to hierarchical multiple regression for initiation model. Here, my model 1 is the base model. Base model is I use just the demographic information for that. And then I included all the 3 constructs to the base model at the same time to see if there's a change in the adjusted R-square. Actually, there was about 10% variation in initiation can be explained by the 3 construct. However, only the participatory dialogue and behavioral confidence is statistically significant. So I did the same for sustainable model, but as you can see, I have 4 models here. I will explain why. So if you look at the model 2, when I included all the construct at the same time, none of them got significant. So this is, then I ran the correlation among the construct, and I saw that emotional transformation and practice for change are highly correlated. So then I remove one at a time. So once I did that, emotional transformation and practice for change became significant. And the adjusted R-square. And for this one, this is the this is adjusted R-square. This is R-square. Adjusted R-square is about 7% variation for the sustainable model for this study. So now moving on to pre-test data, comparison of group differences. As I mentioned, I did this to compare the 2 groups, whether they have a significant difference between the variables that I'm assessing. So PTSI, PA is perceived advantage, PDA is perceived disadvantage, BC behavioral confidence, CPE is changes in physical environment, PT emotional transformation, BCF practice for change, CSE changes in social environment. The initiation and sustainable, when I run t-test, none of them became significant, implying that the randomization worked. So the group didn't have any differences for the these variables. Then I tested participant characteristic, age and past month gambling days. Again, between 2 groups, I ran t-test. None of them became significant. So again, there is no difference between the 2 groups. For the this is the participant characteristics for sex and race and ethnicity. Again, I will show that my chi-square data in the next slide. This again didn't have any significant differences. So at the end, I didn't have to do repeated measure and core. As you can see, my race and ethnicity distribution is like kind of similar, and I have diverse student group based on the race and ethnicity, and also male and female, not sort of, but this is kind of similar distribution. And this is my chi-square. There's so chi-squared became non-significant, like I mentioned. So moving on to process evaluation, my range 2. I look for primary invitation source, motivation to join, key barriers, impact of barriers, most helpful program aspects, and top suggested improvement. And yeah, so almost everything looks similar. I actually didn't compare the groups between, I didn't run any statistical test. I will do that for when I'm publishing this data. I didn't do that for the dissertation. And so it looks similar, but I need to clarify through statistical test for that. And yes, quality. If you look at the quality, I measure through time adequacy, content relevance, content clarity, and so on. If you look at the MTM and knowledge base, they both rank high, but if you look at the knowledge base, almost everything had 100%. So actually, based on this, my participant like the knowledge base intervention than the MTM based on this, but I need to check again through statistics. So. And for fidelity, the overall fidelity is that from the 2 of the observer, if they had marked everything yes, then it's one of each. And the sensitivity is that comparing the iterator comparison. So for my any yes, I had 100% for MTM and knowledge base. One session from MTM, I think I only had one observer present. Someone didn't show up. And then they said, so some sensitive analysis, one observer said all yes, but one said some didn't cover. So that's why there is a variation in the session 2 for the MTM and also knowledge base. But bottom line is that looking at the overall fidelity, that fidelity is 100% for this all sessions. And the satisfaction. Just look at the overall satisfaction index. This is from out of 5. So median is 4.64 for MTM, and the median is for knowledge base is 4.71. So both participants were actually satisfied with the interventions. And I forgot to mention, there's N equal 17 for the knowledge base, even though I had 19 participants. For the process evaluation tools, only 17 completed the tools. And looking at the process evaluation management, again, this is out of 5. Almost good, not good as the previous one. Satisfaction management is about around 3.6 or 6.5, but also good scores. So moving on to the intervention. This is the PGS set, descriptive statistic. If you look at the pre and follow-up, both intervention actually were like, if you eyeball, the scores decrease in the mean scores. And let's look at the inferential statistic. It shows that based on the time, it is significant. There's a significant difference in pre to post to follow-up. So this implies that both interventions work. Both interventions work for responsible gambling. However, if you look at this part of the table, there was no difference in the group. So I will go over that when discussing the results. So there was no difference between the knowledge base improvement and the MTM group. And my interaction was not significant for PTSI scores. And for the PA, again, when you look at the mean scores, there is improvement. And when you look at the inferential statistic, again, it shows that time there's an improvement in the both groups together combined. There's no difference between groups. Also, the interaction was not significant. So PGSI score based on PGSI and PA, both interventions works time-wise, but there is no difference in the groups. The trend actually continues. Participating disadvantage, again, the scores decrease. For this one, you need to have the lower scores, not the higher scores, so scores decrease. This one actually interesting. There is an interaction for this one. So I look at the slides data for the group. There is no difference. But there is a significant difference for knowledge base across time. So for PDA, that's perceived disadvantage. Actually, knowledge base worked, not the NTM. So that's the implication of this result. And this is like the graphical information. So as you can see, the gray line is for knowledge base. There's a jump for the post and kind of maintaining it. And for the NTM, it just didn't go that much of a difference. And for behavioral confidence, again, the scores improved, to follow up. And here, this one has insignificant time difference there, meaning both interventions works and there is a interaction. Looking at interaction, again, this one interesting because both interventions work for the behavioral confidence. And yeah, based on the values, I think again knowledge base is better than NTM in this scenario. And looking at the scores, and you can see the pre to post actually improves, NTM improves better. When it's the follow-up, NTM drops down. For the knowledge base, it increase is steady. I think this is because for the knowledge base, I had detailed slides prepared, and I shared my slides with my participants, so they can go back and read if they want to. For the MTM intervention, we had mostly group discussion and interactive activities. My slides were not detailed, just the outlines, so they don't have any materials to follow up, read if they want to. So their memory could fade over time. So if we I will jump into the research. So if we combine both the interventions together, we can get a better results based on these results I'm seeing. So intervention, but PCE changes in physical environment. Again, based on the score, there is an improvement. Again, only time is significant. So both interventions works. There's no comparison, no interaction. Yes, so emotional transformation again, based on the scores, mean scores, both interventions works, and it is proven by the statistical significance over time. So both interventions work. And again, practice for change, scores improves. It proves from the statistical stats that both groups over time it works, and there is an interaction for here. So looking at the interaction here, again both intervention actually works, and based on the values, actually this one for MTM is better for this one. Practice for change. And this is the diagram. Again, that you can see that pre to post MTM actually improves, and then it's like going down. But for the knowledge base, it's keep improving. I think it is bad because of they have material to refer back to, unlike the MTM group. And this is the changes in social environment. Again, scores improves here, and it is proven by the statistical test. Both groups works, and there is no interaction. So moving on to intention to initiate. Again, scores improves over time, proven by the statistical test. There is a marginal interaction, but I didn't test it. And then the intention to sustain scores. Again, both the interventions work, improve scores, and it is proven by the values, statistical values. And that it is for my results. Let's move on to salient finding. So based on this, based on my findings, significant time gain for PGSM, all MTM constructs and interventions. There were a few between group differences. Both the intervention works. That is the bottom line. Then the MTM base, faster, effective behavior action, as I mentioned. Pre to post scores always improve for the MTM. There's a good jump, and then it's saturated or goes down. My implication is because they do not have materials to follow up to. Knowledge-based steady cognitive consolidation, and the typical gain in this course is between 1 to 3, and the PGSI score went down. For the MTM is 23%, about 23%, and for the knowledge base is about 24%. The strength of the study. We had a strong theoretical foundation based on the MTM. It is the 4th generation theoretical model. And then we have this rigorous RCT design, which is the golden standard for efficacy testing. And then the multiple assessment time points, 3 time points, pre, post, follow-up. We had a process evaluation tool, detailed process evaluation tools, and then the validated instrument. PGSI standard validated instrument. We also validated our MTM-based intervention through panel of experts. Then we had a good comparative analysis done for our results, and we got the approval from the IRB. So based on that, we can inform policy and practice for impact of the responsible gambling. And our demographic are very diverse. So moving on to limitation. This data are self-reported. So student mistake in the study. There can be biases, social desirable bias, recall bias. Such biases can happen when self-reported data. Generalizability is limited, even though we have a diverse sample, it cannot be implemented into the whole US or the worldwide, because we only conducted this study at UNLV, a single institute. And we had a short follow-up period, and we didn't do it for like 6 months or 1 year. Then the PGSI time strength. So I didn't mention PGSI is measuring your past year gambling risk, but our intervention is about 3 months. So lowering of the PGSI is subjective. So yeah, it is a limitation. Then unmeasured co-founder can be there. We only measured some demographic information. There could be other co-founders present in this population. And we test for efficacy, not fully intervention. Then the risk of contamination, the UNLV students, they could be at the same apartment or taking same classes, so they can discuss it among each other. If someone's in the knowledge base and someone's MTM, they could discuss each other, and there is a risk of contamination. And we conducted this study at a controlled conditions. So moving on to implication for practice and public health. So we need to integrate gambling harm reduction into wellness and mental health services. We need to inform campus policies with MTM-based strategies. Expand reach through community partnership and online delivery. Then support population level prevention and behavior change. Moving on to future direction and recommendation, we can expand the research scope through using large, more diverse sample across age and cultural and socioeconomic groups. We could replicate this study in different institutes and other community settings. To strengthen the evidence, we can conduct longitudinal studies for 6 months follow-up or 12 months follow-up. And then to enhance the methodology, we could include objective behavior measurements, such as the digital or financial tracking of the participants. Then we only use quantitative data here. We can go on the mixed method route, but also using qualitative data through interviews or focus group focus. And then to advance real world implication, we can test for feasibility, cost effectiveness, and scalability in real world setting, foster collaboration among researchers, practitioners, and policy makers. In conclusion, this randomized control trial support multi-tiered model as a promising approach for promoting responsible gambling. As I mentioned before, since the both intervention works, MTM works, but also knowledge works. So we could approach this to combine intervention to if we want to get more better results. So when we are doing the MTM intervention, we could actually give our participants to record their interactions and have some documents to go back to and read what we discussed. And we can also provide other information that we provided through the knowledge-based intervention. So future studies should expand scope, extend duration, and refine intervention delivery. So the intervention was delivered by me. I'm not a trained professional, so it could be better from a better trained professional for this type of studies. Well, I have the training for city training and IRB, and also recently acquired chess certification. So in a way, I'm certified, but at the time of the delivery, I wasn't chess. So shift from control trial to real world implementation is needed. So this is just a control trial in a single institute. MTM-based intervention have potential to reduce gambling harm and strengthen self-regulation in college students and wider population. So these are some selected references, and that's it for me.
Thank you so much, Sidath, for an excellent presentation. And if you can stop sharing so we can have participants online ask you some questions or provide some comments. So
Do you want to stop recording too? Or do you want to have questions recorded?
If you want, you can stop recording, or if you want audience questions, you can stop the recording.